Hey everybody, Glenn here. You know, it's Thanksgiving weekend, the busiest travel week of the year. Some of you are traveling for work, some of you are traveling to see family, some of you are traveling to see friends, and some of you might even be traveling to see each and every one of those. And I want to say how thankful we are for each and every one of you. And on Thursday, when we're engaged in our annual tradition of watching planes, trains, and automobiles, we'll be thinking about all of you. Those aren't pillows!
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, Glenn here, and thank you so much for joining us for another exciting edition of the No Vacancy podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. Just want you all to remember that this is what space smells like. And I want to thank every one of you for being here with me today because we've got another great show today. We're focusing on the good folks over at AAHOA. You know how much I love that organization, and you know how much they are doing for you, whether or not you are or not a member of the Asian American Hotel Owners Association, which, by the way, incidentally, is open to every single hotelier out there. So if you're not a member, go check out AAHOA.com and join the party. And over 18,000 members, making a big difference in your life. Well, I'm excited today because we've got a lot of great interviews with folks at AAHOA. And by a lot, I don't mean 20. I mean 2. All right, so maybe not a lot, but it is a pair of interviews, so I guess I got to get some credit somewhere. Plus, we already ran one this past week with the brand new President and CEO of AAHOA, so check that out in our field with Cecil Staten. I want you guys to check that out. So the first interview we're going to do today is with Neal Patel, who's started on the board this year. And then the second interview we're going to be doing is with Rachel Humphrey, who's been acting as interim president and CEO of the organization. So when we recorded these interviews during the HXZ Hotel Experience powered by AAHOA this past week or so, Cecil Staten had not yet been named to run the organization. So if you are wondering why he doesn't come up in those conversations, well, now you've got your answer. All right. So, listen, you've got one life. Blaze on. Don't give me a hard time over here. All right. But before we move on, I want you guys to reshape your expectations of what an FF&E distribution partner for hospitality should be. By now, you know Elmo Hospitality is your go-to partner to simplify FF&E deployments. And you must check them out at hospitality.almoproav.com because they work with brands that you love, like Samsung. How could you not love Samsung, right? If you've been checking out our videos online, we're also doing some great stuff with Peerless AV, which is an outdoor monitors and screens type of company. That's going to be really great. And, of course, the Cape Soleil line of outdoor furniture. So, really, you've got to really start to think of these folks as your one-stop independent distributor for all sorts of things, such as professional audio, video equipment, consumer electronics, major appliances, outdoor furniture, and housewares. All of that kind of good stuff. Man, I'm excited about today's show. I know really love how these interviews came out. I think you're going to love them too. And incidentally, the one with Rachel Humphrey is a little bit of a crossover episode because I've got my Checking In co-host Anthony Melchiorri on that show, which will also be running on the Checking In with Anthony and Glenn feed as well. So gosh darn it, I hope you guys have a fantastic Thanksgiving holiday. I know that as you are listening to this, if you are, of course, listening to it in the first few days that it is released, I'm getting all emotionally, mentally, physically set for Thanksgiving. We're going to have a whole lot of people over at my house, and I'm very excited because I'm going to be taking out the grill and smoking some salmon, creating some braised Italian meatballs, and lots of great side dishes that I can't wait to try. I'm also going to bring out an old Jewish favorite, a chocolate babka. I've never made one of those before, so I look forward to making that. Wish me luck! I could need it. I could use it. I want to be successful with my chocolate babka, but we will find out on Thursday. So, drop me a line at glenn@rouse.media or at Traveling Glenn if you want to find out how my babka turned out, or if you have any questions about the hotel business or you just want to communicate with us on some topics that you'd like to hear on the next episode of No Vacancy with Glenn Hausman. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, be sure to do that. Text the word hotel to 66866. That's the word hotel to 66866. And also, if you're not subscribing to this podcast, shame on me for not convincing you to do it sooner. And you could do that, of course, at Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and wherever finer podcasts are. Check out the No Vacancy feed. Check out the Hotel Design Podcast feed. And, of course, check out the Checking In with Anthony and Glenn feed with some amazing interviews that are coming out on that particular channel. Both those channels, actually. Man, we've got so much great content. We cannot contain them to 1, 2, 3, or 4 podcasts. No, we've got 5 different podcast series going on here right now, and I'm so excited to have you guys listening to it. Thanks for being such great supporters and allowing me to follow my dream. And that's really what I'm thankful for on this holiday, to each and every one of you out there who makes it possible to live this dream that I didn't even know existed a number of years ago. Creating podcasts and creating all these videos for the online world is something that I never would have thought possible in my younger years. I mean, quite frankly, the internet didn't exist, so it wasn't even an option. But I mean, seriously, this has just been a great, great experience for me, and I absolutely love that every single one of you are listening to this and supporting me so I can support my family. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you after the Thanksgiving break. Meanwhile, I look forward to sharing these 2 great interviews with you. So, without further ado, Mr. Neal Patel. Hey, everybody, welcome back to No Vacancy Podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. I'm still recording at HX, the hotel experience powered by AAHOA. I think you can tell I've been here way too long. I'm starting to get confused, but hopefully that confusion is going to evaporate because I've got Mr. Neal Patel, the newest member of the AAHOA board, although you're not so new anymore, my man.
That's correct.
Well, it's so exciting to get you on the microphone for a while. I've been following you for a number of years right now, and I thought it'd be interesting to talk about what your story is, how you managed to find your way to the board. But before we do that, you've been on the board now 6 months, 7 months, in that range?
Yeah, I've been on the board for about 3.5 years, but with my current role as an officer.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant.
About, April, so about 6 months.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll go back and talk about how you got to that part leading up to the officer part in a minute. But I'm curious, before we get into that, what has this experience been like for you? What a massive change for you and everyone in your life.
The biggest change is building on the relationships.
Right.
Like, I've made so many relationships throughout the year in AAHOA and even previous years. And now, with my new position, I can actually build on it because now I can help members out with our new connection and with my new role as a AAHOA officer.
What's the learning process been like for you?
Learning process is actually, end of the day, we're here for the membership.
Right.
And even as a board member, that was always the goal.
Right.
Is what can we do for the membership? How can we take AAHOA to the next level? Right. And that's continued to go on. And I think the learning process, I'm, of course, learning from 3 other officers who have been there longer than me. So I think they've been a huge resource for me. And they guide me throughout the year. And, of course, my fellow board members who I always count on. And without them, without the staff, and, of course, without the membership, we wouldn't be where we are right now.
Right, absolutely. I love your approach to this, but I have to ask, what that first 36 hours or so was like for you? You're an officer now on the board, and you're immediately getting out there on the road. How do you transition into being an officer for AAHOA? I feel like you've got to flip some sort of switch.
Oh, of course, absolutely. So, actually, the first day after the election, I had 2 missed calls from our chair, Jagrati.
Right. Uh-oh.
And at 8 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
And I was not expecting an officer call at 8 a.m. And I was like, I apologize. I had no idea. And that's when she was like, Neal, this is going to be every week. And I think that's the mentality that we have is AAHOA first. And what do we have to do for the membership? Membership voted us in, so it's our job to look after the association. It is our association. It's the members' association.
Yeah, one of the phenomenal things that I've seen from every single chairperson and officer since I got into this crazy business that we're in is how much of your lives you give over to this service.
Absolutely.
So many of you have, full businesses running outside of this, but you would not think that you're all over all the time looking out for the membership and not necessarily your own businesses. How are you adjusting to make it all work for you?
I think for me, it's my family, my wife, my brother, Sonny, and of course my parents.
Right.
So in our company, it's Blue Chip Hotels. We have 1,200 rooms in our portfolio and brands such as IHG, Wyndham, Choice, Redger Fins, and a couple independents. And we have assets in states like Iowa, Indiana, Alabama, and of course Texas. So I think if it wasn't for my family, I wouldn't be doing what I am doing right now, because when I'm away, they're the ones back home. My brother is the one who's handling everything on my behalf. So I'm very thankful for my family.
Right.
And not just me, but I think every board member in AAHOA, they rely on their family, they rely on their team. And that's what I'll continue to do. And I'm grateful for the support they've shown me in my journey for AAHOA.
So you were on the regional boards and stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I do want to keep talking about this particular issue for another minute or so, because you don't just make the decision to run in a vacuum. You
Correct.
really have to have everyone on your crew on board ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Because this is a commitment for them for the next 4 years as much as for yourself.
100%. 100%. So whenever I brought this idea up about me running for AAHOA, some of my family members were not on board initially.
Right.
They're like, oh, you may be too young, because age has always been the factor. And then what I told them is it's not about the age, right? It's about the connection and how many members you can help out by being there. And I was already doing that. Like, for example, there was a brand franchisee, and they had an issue with the franchisor, and they're terminating their hotel. And it was all because of simple miscommunication. That was it.
Really?
And I was able to step in and
Wonderful.
help the franchisee out. And they were able to retain the flag and continued. And I think helping that one member out, that just made my entire week. And I'll continue to do that going forward.
Wow. That's fantastic. So you are the youngest officer ever elected, correct?
Correct. By, I think, 8 years, if I'm not mistaken.
That's crazy.
Yes. It's exciting.
Yeah, because I remember about 10 years ago when I saw the generational shift, and everybody wound up being 10 years younger when they were hitting the board. And now I'm seeing that again with guys like you and Biren and all. And it's pretty awesome to see. So you don't just get involved in this sort of thing out of the blue. You're a guy that grew up in hotels, right?
Right. So funny thing about that is, Glenn, a lot of people don't know, but my family and I, we moved from India in 2004.
What?
And we had a 20-room motel in Giddings, Texas. And until 2011, that's when we sold it and bought our first franchise hotel, which was a Red Roof Inn. And I didn't really know how to operate a hotel back then because I was still young. And I think that's when AAHOA helped me out with the education resources and simple things like how to hire and fire employees. I used AAHOA as a resource. And I think that's why once I was successful, our next 3 hotels were all Red Roof Inns, and we continued to grow our portfolio. And I wanted to give back to the association. And I think if it wasn't for the association, usually we're calling our family members up, we're calling our friends up on, hey, how can we get this done? How can we get that done? But if it wasn't for AAHOA, I wouldn't be where I am right now.
Wow. I can't believe that you are first generation American. That's that's an absolutely incredible story to me, that you came here 15 years ago and now you're a board member of AAHOA and your family has got this portfolio of hotels. How did you all do it?
So, funny thing is, when we moved from India in 2004, we used to work for a gentleman named Neal Patel in Mississippi.
Right.
It was an independent motel. And it was in Laurel, Mississippi. And then we worked there for 6 months. We managed the hotel. We cleaned rooms. We did front desk. And then we bought our own 20-room motel in Giddings, Texas, an hour away from Austin.
Right.
And we continued to doing the same thing that we did for the first 6 months. And we were successful in doing that. And we bought our first franchise hotel in 2011.
Wow.
And within the first 3 years, I used to manage it, and I did shifts every single day, front desk shifts every single day. My mom used to be in the laundry, and then my brother used to do shifts every day as well. Right. And we were able to double the revenue within the first 3 years at the hotel. And it was also the economy in Austin. It went up because I think we were lucky enough, and we bought it at the right time. Right. And that played a huge role in it. But if it wasn't for my family putting the amount of time that we did in the initial asset, the initial franchise hotel, I think that's what fueled our growth going forward.
So how does that work? The whole family chipped in, you all saved that money and were able to get the down payment to do property?
Absolutely. So in our culture, we usually borrow from family and friends. Right. And I think if it wasn't for our family and friends, we wouldn't be where we are right now. Yeah. And anyone who is moving from India that we know, and now we continue to do that for others and help them out. And then usually it's 0% interest loan, and sometimes they're so generous, they're like, hey, just give it back whenever you can. Right. 2 years, 3 years, whenever it can be. So I think it's the community that also helped us get to where we are right now.
And it sounds to me a combination between your interest in the hotel business and that sense of giving back was imbued to you as soon as you came here to the United States.
Absolutely, 100%.
Right. So how did you get involved? How did you and your family get involved in AAHOA? And then what was the first indication that you wanted to take on a little bit more responsibility?
Yeah,
in a role?
absolutely. So initially, I was appointed as a AAHOA ambassador by Pratt Patel, and he was the regional director at that time from San Antonio.
And then he's also a former chairman at this
Absolutely.
point. I'm starting to lose track of years. Was it 5 years ago?
Yeah, it was,
Something like that?
5 years,
Okay.
yes, sir. Yeah, almost. And then he got me involved, and that was a life-changing experience.
Right.
Because now, as an ambassador, I was helping out my local community. And if any of our members in Austin had questions, they would call me about it, and then I would ask Pratt or the AAHOA staff. And I was the one able to give them the answers. And I think that's what helped us. And then after my ambassador role, I got on the AAHOA board as a young professionals director.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that was a unique experience because now not only was I helping out my community, but industry young professionals, they're relying on me. And my counterpart, who was Neal Patel at the time. And so we did different initiatives. And one of the different initiatives we did was we hosted focus groups.
Right.
And we gathered about 10, 15 young professionals. We wanted to find out what is the industry lacking or what is the AAHOA lacking that we can do for you. And one of the ideas that came out of it, they're like, hey, it's hard for us to talk to the brand. Our parents know who they are, but they won't even return my calls.
Right.
So what can AAHOA do for us? So with that in mind, we reached out to some of the brand partners we work with. And I think the first one was Choice Hotels and Marriott. We partnered with them and we took about 25 or 50 young professionals to their headquarters. And now they're getting to meet with the CEO, the senior vice presidents, and they're going through the PowerPoint on what it takes to be part of their brand. I think that was a huge success. And when we rolled out the first one, within 24 hours, we're sold out of all the spots.
Holy cow.
So I think that's what, and we started attracting more young professionals to AAHOA. And we continued to do that going forward.
And I'll tell you, kudos to the brands that are now participating in this, because not only they're doing a service by helping the customer base, but dealing with the young professionals, they're grooming the next decade's worth of customers as well, right?
100%. And it's not about if someone's going to sign a Marriott hotel right now or a Choice hotel right now. It's about the relationship that you're building when you go there. And 5 years from now, when you're ready to build your first hotel or convert your existing hotel, now you're going back to those relationships that you've built upon throughout the years.
So how do you form relationships? Because you've done very, very well with that. What's your strategy for getting in there? I asked you that question thinking about one of my sons is a little bit more shy, and I really have to push him and stuff like that. So how do you get outside that comfort zone to get all these people and find that level of comfort to keep pushing forward?
I think the cheat code is meet Glenn and talk to him. But I think coming to events like these, right? AAHOA hosts about over 200 events throughout the year. And getting to meet with the industry peers. And like one of the things that helped me is whenever I came to AAHOA events, we're always talking about our hotels.
Right.
What are we doing differently than what you're doing? And some of the best practices that some use and sometimes we never think about. And now we made a bond with another person. And I think that's what fuels the relationship and continue to meet with them, right? At every event, you see about a handful of young professionals who are there at every single event. Doesn't matter if it's in Texas, California, or even in New York City. So I think you have to show up. I think that's the number one thing. You have to show up. I think 80% of your success is built on if you show up.
And being there and just being present. And by present, I don't mean just in the room. I mean trying to be the best version of you that you could possibly be, even on those days where it's painful and you don't want to get out of bed, right? I remember when I was younger, probably in my early 30s, sometimes I'd go into an event. I'd feel so overwhelmed by all of these people there. What am I going to do? I'd just turn around and walk out, you know?
Yep.
But I realized quickly that was not going to build my career.
Right? And then one other thing is you come out to all these events. You learn new things.
Right.
But I think the number one thing that people are not doing is implementation. I think that's where our industry lacks. You're learning new things, but how are you implementing that at your hotels? And I think that's what I had a problem with initially. Like I would learn all these cool new things, and then once I'm at the hotel, I'm doing what I was doing.
Right.
But I'm never implementing it. And learning to implement, I think that's the key to being successful.
Is it an issue of you're just too busy and you'll get to it later and then it never happens, or what else?
So I think implementing change is one of the hardest things, right? And especially when you think about implementing a change throughout your hotel. Employees are not going to like change. They are adjusting to what they've been doing. For example, like when I was younger, Facebook did not have timelines. They had their profiles. And whenever it switched to timelines, they had like countless number of groups that people created that they want the old profiles back. Timeline sucks. And like one of the groups had over 1 million people. And I think there's a curve that you follow. Like you're resisting change, then you're going against the change, and then you're implementing and you're adapting to the change. I think that's where it lies. And I think that's what a lot of the young professionals or a lot of our members lack to understand.
Right. That sounds like my relationship with the iPad. I'm like, what is this stupid piece of technology? I'm never going to need it. And now, like, the screen wasn't working, so I had to put it into the shop. I don't know how to handle myself because I miss it so much.
Yep, absolutely. And then even when iPhone rolled out the new, there's no more home button.
Right.
And so many people complain about it. But now we feel like, oh, it's the best thing ever. So I always feel that once you implement the change, it'll take time for adaptation. But I think eventually you'll get there.
I agree, man. I got to tell you, one of the things that I find most interesting is change is tough. I don't know what it is with the human experiment, but we are not into change, even when it's for our own good and personal development. And you always have to struggle to get out of that, which goes back to me getting scared and walking out of rooms when I was younger, right? At some point, you just got to move forward and make those changes.
And then one of the things I want to bring up is when you talk about change. Last year at the convention, I think we implemented a change. We went to the ballpark.
Right.
And that was unique. That was something different. And then we continued that on the next day where we rented out an entire street and the members were out there, right? And we had never done that before.
Right.
But then when we look at the survey, it's amazing. Like members loved it. And we'll continue. We'll try to continue and try to be unique going forward, right? We had a wow factor at the convention. It was our 30th anniversary. And I think that was something unique that we did, and hopefully we can continue going forward.
Poor Biren, because he's playing in the conference, and now he's got to deal with it and up the ante,
of course,
which is really a tough thing to do. But I think you're right. You know, that whole idea of change, and AAHOA as an organization has gone through radical change in the time that you've been involved with it.
Of course,
and sometimes you have to make those changes that you know are good for everybody. But they don't necessarily have that same vision as you, and that's going to be one of the things that you're going to have to be focusing on this year and then the subsequent years.
Yeah, and then Glenn, when I first was elected on the AAHOA board in 2016.
And that was a regional board.
Yeah, it was Young Professionals Director for the Western Division.
Okay.
Jagrati broke the barriers by being the first elected officer for AAHOA. And then I had to break that barrier again right now when I ran in San Diego because of the age.
Right.
A lot of members felt that I was too young. But at the same time, what I had to offer was my experience in the industry, right? And that's what I had to sell to the membership. And as membership accepted that change, and now it's easier for other young professionals to be involved in AAHOA. And I think that was the goal. How can we get as many young professionals be involved in AAHOA? And not only create more members, but what can we do right now for our existing members? Something different than what we're already doing.
Right. That's fascinating. I'm sitting here and thinking about how that young professionals aspect of it, while it's been there for some time, seems to have really bubbled to the surface of the conversation in the last couple of years. A lot more emphasis is being put on that now.
Of course. Yeah, like yesterday, we had our young professional reception hosted by Neal Patel from Houston and Purvi Panwala from Philadelphia. We had over 400 attendees there, and we've never had that before.
Right.
And I think that's the change we're seeing in our industry. More and more young professionals are coming back to the industry. A lot of us who grew up in the industry, we always said that there is no way I'm going to do what my parents did, which was waking up at middle of the night to rent a room or cleaning rooms. But now there's a different viewpoint. Like you can create your own management company. You don't have to do the same thing our parents did.
Right.
And I think if we can educate our members, we are seeing more and more young professionals coming back to AAHOA. And
it's so funny. And for the listeners out there, check our sister show, Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, where we speak with Rachel Humphrey, who's the interim CEO of AAHOA, and we talk about that very specific issue. So if you want to learn more about, please check out that particular interview. So tell me what that process was like when you said, I'm running for the board, I want to be an officer, until you got elected.
So initially, I did not want to run.
Really?
For an officer. I felt like I was too young. But then I think it was my supporters that pushed me to where we are right now. And then, and I think they believed in me. And I think that's what I did not know how much they believed in me until we sat down in actually Washington, D.C. convention.
Right.
They had to sit down with me and they're like, Neal, I think it's time for you to run.
Wow.
And it was my last year on the board. My plan was to rerun for my position, and then I can run for officer at a later year in a later convention. But they pushed me to run, and they believed in me. And that's what got me believing in the entire process. And that's when I was like, you know what? I think they're right.
Right.
I think I can give back to the membership. I've taken so many resources and implemented those in my business. And now it's time for me to give back to the association where everything started.
Beautiful. That's an absolutely terrific story. So anything else that you want to share?
One of my initiatives this year, everyone
Great.
says
Yes.
I'm big in details, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when it comes to the board meeting.
Right.
One of my initiatives this year is to redo our governance and ad hoc. Mm-hmm. So we've created a governance ad hoc committee. We're working with an outside firm to clean up a lot of the policies in AAHOA. Because AAHOA is not what it used to be 10 years ago.
Right.
And I think we need to realize that, board realizes it, so they unanimously approved for me to take on this project, and we'll continue on. And by February, we will present a final version to the board, so I'm very excited for that.
That's excellent. And once that's presented, does the board vote on it, or does something happen across the entire membership in the national convention?
So according to your policy, it's up to the board.
Right.
And
okay.
I think we have a lot of board members
right.
who are part of this, and they're very passionate about AAHOA. Mm-hmm. Every board member that's out there, they know, end of the day, we are doing what we're doing. It's for the membership, right? Memberships is the one who owns the
right.
association. We're just there volunteering our time to run the association
right.
on behalf of the membership. So end of the day, the board is going to approve anything that helps the membership, and something like implementing this will definitely help our membership going forward.
What would you tell the young folks out there that might be a little insecure about their skill sets and how to get out of that and become more focused and achieve what you're achieving?
Absolutely. I think AAHOA does over 200 events. Mm-hmm. You have to show up. You have to get involved. I think that's the first step of being successful. And if you do that right, then everything else will fall in place. So
right.
I think that's one piece of advice that I would give to my fellow young professionals out there.
Beautiful. I love it. All right. Shameless plug time. How can we find you? How can we find AAHOA? All that kind of good stuff.
So we'll be there here for another day. HX powered by AAHOA. The entire conference has been amazing. I was on 3 different panels yesterday. One cool thing that I did yesterday was I was a judge on the technology pitch.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think that was an amazing experience
right.
because we're giving a chance to the startups, especially in our industry, and they're pitching the product. And hopefully we can continue and implement that at the AAHOA convention in Orlando this year, April 13th through
Beautiful.
17th.
Well, I will be there. That is, unless I get stuck online for the Rise of the Resistance ride at Hollywood Studios.
Yes, sir.
But I really look forward. really look forward to it. So thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
And thank you, listeners, for being here. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. If you want to get our Sunday night newsletter, text the word hotel to 66866. And of course, this show, No Vacancy, and all of our sister shows are all available where you find your podcasts.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Glenn here. So listen, a while back, I told you about the Red Collection. You know what I'm talking about. Red Roof soft brand that was developed after comprehensive research into what today's travelers truly desire. It's offering you a great opportunity to affordably expand your portfolio in the heart of cities you love. Well, for a limited time, that opportunity is now miles beyond affordable. Because why? Red Roof is offering free royalties. Not for 1, not for 2, not even for 3 or 4, but for 5 years to qualified franchisees completing an application by the end of 2019. That's December 31st, 2019. You don't want to be ringing in 2020 without completing that application, do you? No, you do not. So the Red Collection is a fast-growing group of upper mid-scale unique hotels, each inspired by their city's vibe and culture. What's more, every property has its own distinctive name, customized property enhancement plan, and brand standards based on consumer wants rather than silly design mandates. And because of all of this is backed by Red Roof, you're going to gain the advantage of their owner-operated perspective, as well as a loyalty rewards program with more than 3 million members, which just happens to be the richest in class, yet the least expensive for franchisees just like you. Plus, you'll be working with a company with franchisee satisfaction at 90%. So to learn more about 5 years royalty-free with the Red Collection, contact Matt Hotstetler. You know Matt. He's Red Roof's Senior VP of Development and Franchising. So call Matt Hotstetler today. Give him a ring, 713-576-7426. That's 713-576-7426. Or email him at mhostetler. That's MHOSTETLER at redroof.com. And of course, tell him Glenn sent you. Anthony,
the big boss is here.
Yeah,
I'm going to
man.
be on my best behavior.
I know. I'm a little anxious because sometimes you get so intimidated by people you don't know how to behave. And this is one of those times, Anthony. I got to be on our best behavior.
I keep saluting her. It's weird.
All right. So we've got, because the jig is up. I mean, you guys read the show notes. You know who's here already. Interim CEO of AAHOA, Rachel Humphrey. How are you?
I'm doing well, Glenn and Anthony. Thanks for having us this morning.
Yeah, us. I like that you speak in the plural because
I do.
you are AAHOA. I
am AAHOA, sitting here on behalf of our almost 19,000 members now.
I know. That's unbelievable. Okay, so we're recording the show from the show floor at HX, the hotel experience powered by AAHOA, and what a great first day.
Thanks, Glenn. Before we get started on how exciting HX is, I do want to take a moment to recognize that it's Veterans Day, and on behalf of AAHOA's members who are the embodiment of the American dream, just a shout out and say thank you to all of our servicemen and their families for all they do for
I wish we had a chance to go and check out the parade. It's a little weird that this event is always on this day and we don't get to participate in those things. But let's thank a veteran sitting right here at this table, Mr. Anthony Melchiorri from the Air Force. Thanks for everything you did for us, so I could not do a lot myself.
Well, I'll tell you, people don't realize, but I had the most dangerous job in the military.
What was that?
I poured coffee for generals.
Ooh.
That coffee's hot. The Air Force is the best thing ever happened. And yes, I'd like to say Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans and all the people overseas and in the United States keeping us safe. We can't do this if they don't do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, is there a lot of AAHOA members that have been in the military?
Not at this point as we go, because we have so many first-generation members. But as we continue to see the growth of the association, absolutely, yes. And certainly so many of our partners as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I had some drinks last night with a couple of Marines, which was really nice.
They didn't beat you up?
Well, come on.
Wait,
they took
Glenn
pity
had
on
a
me.
couple of drinks? I thought that was the breaking news.
That's true, because I have been I was abstaining yesterday all the way from morning until about 4 p.m. So that was pretty good. Excellent. So this is exciting for you. I do want to talk about this because this is a real big seminal shift for you folks, getting involved in helping produce HX, a hotel experience, now powered by AAHOA for the first time. What was that experience like, and how do you feel that the results have come out for you guys?
You know, yesterday was incredibly exciting. It is an idea that came to fruition about a year ago. It has taken a lot to get us to this point. You were in San Diego when we launched the big announcement.
Yes, what a great national conference that was.
Yeah, so we had an opportunity to talk a little bit about the idea behind it then. But Emerald Exposition, just an absolute industry leader in business-to-business trade shows. AAHOA on the education side, bringing hotel owners, and then, of course, our trade show aspects as well. So it's a great partnership. The excitement around the conference yesterday and today, absolutely palpable. We can feel a difference, and we're really excited to be a part
It's the
of it.
busiest I've seen it in many years. And so for our audience members, what does powered by AAHOA mean? What does that encompass?
Yeah, it's a combination of a lot of different factors. We're full partners in the event as far as the planning and what the look and feel of the show will be. But AAHOA oversees all of the content development for all of the education sessions and the learning side of it, also bringing hoteliers here. So one of the things we had noticed in the past few years is that attendance, the demographic had changed, and we really wanted owners to be back at HX. And so when you want owners, everybody knows you look to partner with AAHOA. Also the trade show side as well for us. And then last night, a new aspect completely. One thing that we find is that so many of our members go to the AAHOA events for the networking opportunity. HX historically has not had that type of event.
Right.
So as you know, we hosted our first ever young professional reception last night here at the HX conference and had a great turnout, a real opportunity for young professional hoteliers to network with each other, and then many on the mentor side as well.
It was a great event, and it was an event that I selected, and me and my partner selected to roll out hospitalitysuccess.com, our new company, and it was fantastic. I had so much fun, and I think we did some business.
Well, I am glad to hear that. That's the true partnership with AAHOA. There you go. And you selected the right partner.
Yeah, I love the young professionals, and I love the whole idea that they have a community that you could rally around. And I think about when I first entered the hospitality industry, and I felt like I was adrift. There was nobody to show me the way, and nobody to bring me in and inculcate me to the whole world. So I feel like if you're a young professional and you participate, not only can you make friends, but you could really learn the ropes and get through everything. And I think speed up to success a little bit quicker, right?
Well, there's a lot of different aspects of it. You know, the hospitality industry is known for being one where there's tremendous opportunity for growth, for a career path. But we're also in the midst of the worst labor shortage in the industry ever. So the opportunity to bring hoteliers together, to bring people in the hospitality industry together, to be reminded of what an amazing career path it is for people who are looking for not just work, but a long-term career. And you also look with the young professionals that there's so much to learn from each other. So giving them the opportunity to learn from each other, to learn from those who have really paved a path before them is a great opportunity, and something we spend a lot of time focusing our efforts on is to make sure to have that capability.
You know what's interesting? Last night talking to everyone, I've met a lot of second, third generation, and they didn't seem like they were dragged into it. They didn't seem upset about being in it. They seem excited about what their family was able to do, and then how do they get it to the next level. I think they're really excited about the growth and how they can bring their creative juices to what their family built. A lot of times you see a lot of families where there's resentment. I'm in this business because I have to be. And they don't have to be. Matter of fact, as we know, the Indian community is very big into education. So their families are like, go get an education.
Right.
And then whatever you want to be. But a lot of them come back. Last night, there was a lot of brothers and sisters. One was a doctor, and two were in the hotel business. I got that a couple times last night. One was a lawyer, and two were in the hotel business. So, but they really are finding their path, and the people that are staying and are second, third generation, they're really passionate about it. And one of the things that fascinates me is the executive boards and the regional directors. Like, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into it, and they do it happily. They do it unpaid, and they have a lot of passion for it. So they not only have passion for the hotel business, but they have their passion for AAHOA. And like, you can't fake that. And every time I'm at an event, they're like literally chomping at the bit to talk to me, to tell me about how great AAHOA is.
Wow. We certainly like to hear that. You know, the young professionals are really an important aspect or segment of AAHOA because we want to be here for the long term. We celebrated our 30th anniversary in San Diego, but that's just the beginning for us. And so to make sure that we're relevant 30 years from now, we know we need to make sure that we are meeting the needs of today's young professionals. You mentioned an interesting point about being here willingly.
Right.
One story you hear a lot is, I had no intention of staying
100%.
in the hotel industry. And I go out and I get my marketing degree, I get my law degree, I get my business degree. And then I think, well, that's actually a pretty exceptional career. And so that's, we hear that more often than not now.
Heard
and I
that
just
many
wanted
times.
to make one mention. You mentioned our volunteers a minute ago. AAHOA is a family in every sense of the word, not just because we are founded upon really family principles, but the AAHOA community. I joke, when you become a member of the family, as you both know, you're in for life. So that's our members, our volunteers are exceptional, our partners of every kind. So it's really a nice community of hoteliers and everybody that works in the industry along with the hoteliers. But our volunteers are really unsurpassed by any other association in this country.
A lot of our listeners know about the power of AAHOA and HX Hotel Experience, powered by AAHOA, but I don't think we know enough about you, Rachel. How did you find your way to AAHOA? Because I know you were a lawyer by trade, and were you in associations before this? How did that journey to AAHOA work for you?
I was not. I like to say that, like many in the hospitality industry,
Right.
I found my way here accidentally. I
Yep, same here.
spent a little over 20 years in private practice as a trial attorney. The firm I worked for in Atlanta was actually the first attorney partner for AAHOA. So we provided a lot of free legal advice for AAHOA members, and mostly on the franchise side. So I was very familiar with the association. I had done a lot of speaking opportunities at convention regionals and other things, and helped a lot of AAHOA members who really were new to the contracting process, new to the legal side
Right.
of the industry. I retired from the trial practice world and was trying to figure out what to do next. I saw that AAHOA was looking for something completely unrelated on the legal side.
Right.
Reached out to Chip and our team at AAHOA at the time, and they created a really special opportunity for me.
Yeah, because it seems like when I first met you, you were focused more on the PR aspect of it, front-facing, but behind the scenes, I know there's a lot more stuff going on. And then it was so delightful to see that you started to get new opportunities within that organization really quickly.
Yeah, I actually came on the franchise side. I think you and I connected on the industry relations side, which would be the PR media side. And then from there, we were looking for, we'd never had a chief operating officer before. We spent a tremendous amount of time looking for one. And what we really realized is that role, because, as you guys know, AAHOA moves 1 million miles an hour every single day, that the reason we weren't finding the right fit is we needed somebody who understood the association, our membership, what we're doing every day. And I had an opportunity to accept that responsibility. And one thing led to another, and here I sit with a different hat on today. But no, I mean, AAHOA, like the industry, is just an association that creates opportunity. And if you work hard and if you have great vision, there's great opportunity.
You know, you said something very interesting. AAHOA moves 1 million miles an hour. Oh, my God. It's true. It's like, I think I was, the last time I saw you guys, I don't know where, I'm Minneapolis, and you've been to like 27 different cities since then, and I'm like, oh my God, it moves really, really fast. It's amazing. People are engaged. People are serious.
It is. It's also, the industry moves very quickly as well. So you want to stay relevant. You want to make sure that as the industry changes, that AAHOA is keeping up with it. But our growth last week, we hit record membership for us. We're at almost 19,000 AAHOA members now. But we know that our members own about 50% of the hotels in the United States, which means that 50% of hotel owners in the U.S. are not our members. So we have a lot of room for growth, a lot of opportunity. So we want to go where they are.
So how do you bridge that gap? I know being powered by AAHOA, the HX experience, but how do you bridge the gap? Because AAHOA is known for the Indian community. How do you bridge the gap outside that community?
Well, that's a great question. AAHOA's membership is open to all hoteliers. The only requirement to be an AAHOA member is that you own a hotel or have an interest in owning hotels. We know that hotel ownership is our niche. There's a lot of great associations that represent the industry. So from that standpoint, what we do applies to every hotelier in the U.S. The advocacy that we're doing at the federal level, state and local level, the education that we're putting out, both on the operational side, on the development side, the trade shows that we put out to make sure that we are connecting our membership with the products and services they need. All of those things apply to every single hotelier, whether you own a 10-room mom-and-pop roadside hotel or whether you own a 200-room resort property somewhere. Those are needs that every hotelier has. And so we know that that's what we're putting out every day and just getting that messaging out to all hoteliers. And that's what that part of that growth represents, that messaging is working.
And what do you think HX Experience powered by AAHOA does for the pride of your board members and the pride of your association? Because it's a big deal. I walked in here and I was like, actually, the gentleman stopped me because it was too early. I was supposed to be here at 10 o'clock. Glenn said the appointment's at 10. I came 10 to 10, and it opens for guests at 10 and for vendors before. But my badge is a guest, not a vendor. And he stopped me. And I said, I'm with them. And I pointed at the big sign. I said, I'm interviewing the chief of that place. So there was a pride of being associated with the people that are putting this event on. What is that like? That must just help internally.
No, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of pride. AAHOA as an association has come so far in the 30 years. As I mentioned, we had a great chance to celebrate that in San Diego. But even last night, you could see our board members who are here with us are volunteers. they're tremendously proud of the role that AAHOA plays in the industry. It is not a niche organization anymore. It is a leading powerhouse, as I mentioned, on the advocacy, on the education, on the trade shows.
Lobbying on Capitol Hill in particular.
Yeah, I mean, so when you look around, our board members, our past chairmen, they could not be more proud of what AAHOA stands for today.
It's amazing to see some of the old past chairmen and talk to them about how much the organization has moved forward in years since they had their tenure. But it's also really cool to talk about these younger folks that have just, and I mean by younger in terms of just getting onto the board and stuff like that, and seeing how they found their way and why they wanted to be involved and why they really wanted to make a difference. What a commitment that is, to give 4+ years of your life when you're thinking about running for the first board position, all the way through graduating from the chairmanship to a past chair. What a huge commitment, and it's amazing how those folks dedicate so much time, but still have full-time businesses on the side.
Yeah, no, it's a wonder. I ask myself that every day. How is anybody's business still afloat? That's what I was mentioning earlier. The passion of our volunteers is just unmatched anywhere else.
I ask that all the time, and your former chairman, Hitesh, asked him what he's going to be doing. He's like, I'm going to sleep for 2 weeks and then actually run my business again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like anything else, every one of us who has achieved anything does it with the support of a team.
Yeah.
So when you look at the people who serve on our board, they're supported by amazing teams at home, whether it's their family, whether it's their leadership teams at their hotels, their management companies, because they know when they commit to AAHOA, it is a full-time job for so many of them, not just at the officer level that you mentioned when you are elected to eventually become chair, but also at the regional level. You are doing so much to spread the word of AAHOA, to host events, to make sure that we're meeting the needs of members in every region in this country.
And as a general manager, when the owner that owned our hotel was a member of AAHOA, I was excited when they left for AAHOA events. Right. I got to run the hotel. Do more AAHOA events. Yeah. So if they're the young professionals that we met last night, that makes us the old professionals?
I don't want to ask. I said I'm lucky they didn't card last night, or I don't know if that any of the three of us at this table would have gotten in.
Yeah, no, I was in there. I'm like, I swear, I'm under 40. I swear.
But they're so, it really is. I can't say enough about it. Mm-hmm. And I think the young generation gets such a maligned in the press.
Right.
It's like I spent time with Cornell students this week. I spent time with a lot of students walking around the floor. I spent a lot of time with young AAHOA members last night. I'm telling you, I wasn't this together at that age. I was not this together. So I don't know what the hell people are talking about.
I'm still not that together.
Right. I don't know what the hell. There was one young lady who says, yes, I run my father's hotels, hotels, and I'm starting the management company, whatever. She's like 23.
Right.
At 23, I didn't know where my shoes were.
If you think about that story, too, what resonates with so many of our members is starting at 7 or 8, they were making up rooms or they were working behind the counter. I mean, labor laws notwithstanding, they're used to that hard work. That hard work, that passion for family, for success, that drive is absolutely evident across all of our membership base. But I think that's where a lot of that comes from.
There was one family last night where you can tell the father was pretty intense, right? And when the father walked away, there was a son and a daughter, and I said to them, I said, wow, he's intense. And the son was like, yeah. And I was like, and I looked at the daughter had a smile. I said, why are you smiling? I was like, I'm the daughter. I got him wrapped around my finger. In the Indian community, the daughter's wrapped around dad's finger.
That's awesome. But the cool thing about hoteliers growing up within the hospitality environment and doing all of those jobs is when they go to school and they come home, they already have 15, 20 years hotel experience, which I think puts them way ahead. And then you talk about these folks that go out, and they kind of find other little career paths and come back. And it's amazing to see how they're able to incorporate all those different elements and those outside experiences with their hotel experience to become the moguls of today and into tomorrow.
Well, I think there's a very different focus, too. So with a lot of the young professionals, you not only see the drive toward development, toward management companies, but you also see the influences of social media, how it impacts hotel revenue. You see the technology, how that impacts revenues. So they have, not just through education, but through their training today, a lot more resources and a lot more knowledge how to use those resources to drive revenues at the hotel. And at the end of the day, it's all about the ROI. So if they're coming in with the ideas, whether it's business degrees, whether it's financing ideas, whether it's technology, there's a whole new world out there that learning through doing is one thing, but getting to see what other opportunities are out there. And I think that that's one of the things that HX provides that's great is for a lot of the young professionals, they're coming in here, they're seeing the new technologies on the trade show floor. They're going to education and hearing how technology or how new F&B is driving revenues. So there's a real opportunity to continue to learn. And I would say that a lot of the young professionals now just have a deep passion for learning the industry outside of the hands-on training that they've had their whole lives.
Right.
They don't feel like outsiders like they did the first generation. I think the first generation, the reason AAHOA got so big is because they felt like outsiders. They felt like they were.
They were.
Right. And they really weren't, because anybody's welcome, but I think the community at large back in the day made them feel like outsiders. Now, there is inside. I mean, they're hosting HS Experience.
I know.
There is inside as it comes now. So I think there's a different confidence and a different swagger that comes with that, where they feel it's their business.
Well, it's interesting. We know that we own about half the hotels in the U.S. We hear from the major brands that pipeline is probably closer to 60 to 70% of the pipeline, but it's also about 50% of the full service pipeline. And that was a number we heard recently that was very surprising to a lot of us who know that limited service, select service, extended stay economy, that's absolutely been the AAHOA member niche over the years.
Right.
But to know that we're now in the pipeline of such a tremendous number of the full service properties as well is showing that growth, not just of the member, but of their portfolios.
Right. Well, personally, I'm not surprised, because if you've been following the story over the last 30 years, that first generation that came over here, the whole thing for them was just to be able to feed their family.
Absolutely.
Let's get into that economy hotel. Let's get some other folks to come over from places such as the state of Gujarat in India over here to the United States so they can pursue their dream. The parents made that sacrifice so their children could then go ahead and be the creators. And I saw over the last 15, 20 years that movement up. And, from the economy to the mid-scale and now to the upscale full-service type property. So it doesn't really surprise me. And we're going from seeing people owning one or two hotels to big portfolios of varied products, which is such an exciting thing to see. So your membership continues to morph and adapt over time as they become more successful and learn new things. And you guys are moving at 1 million miles an hour. So how do you bring those two components together to know which directions to kind of move the organization to best meet the needs of your membership today, but also thinking about where it's headed in the future?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're a membership association, and so there's a lot of listening. We spend, Anthony, as you mentioned, a tremendous amount of time on the road with our members. Yeah. And we're constantly hearing and we're asking, what is it that you need? Are we doing everything that we can to be your association? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that hotel owners have a place to go for resources, whether it's advocacy, whether it's education, trade shows, networking, whatever it is. And you only grow if you are a good listener. And so we listen a lot. We figure out what's working, what can we do better? How do we change things? How do we keep up with the current times? A lot of that is through our volunteers. Most AAHOA members are not silent in their feedback.
I didn't
haven't noticed that.
You're going to know every good or other idea that somebody has. But no, I mean, honestly, it's a lot of listening and making sure that we're keeping up with the changing times. And not all AAHOA members are going to be the same. So you really have to think about with a changing demographic across whether it's age, whether it's gender, whether it's geography, whether it's something else. You really need to be thinking, okay, we want to make sure we're servicing all of the segments of our membership and not just traditionally maybe where we were focused.
And I like that you say that because 30 years ago, I think culturally speaking within this community, men were mostly in their driver's seat, at least forward-facing. I know that there's more of an equal partnership behind the scenes and stuff like that, right? But now that's very different. And I see folks, particularly in the young professional kind of world, standing on equal footing with voice and distribution of people out there.
Well, you see that with gender as well.
Yeah.
So, we know that so many of our members own family-owned businesses. The female hoteliers, all owners, they've been working incredibly hard at the properties. But for a long time, they weren't front-facing to the industry itself. That's
what I mean, yeah.
We've had a tremendous opportunity over probably the last 10 years to make sure that we are not only providing advocacy, education, and other things for our female hoteliers, but that we're creating leadership opportunities.
Right.
And as you know, we now have our first female chair who's about halfway through her term, which has really been game-changing for us. It's opportunity. Well, it's an opportunity for other female hoteliers to say, I see a role model, or I see someone who has reached the highest level of our association, and I also want to be involved. I don't want to go as a plus one to an event. I'm a hotelier in my own right, and I want to be a part of the association, not just in membership, but we have many women who serve on our board. We currently have a female chair and a female interim CEO, which is a nice opportunity for our female hotel owners to see a chance for that participation as well.
Were both positions embraced by the men of AAHOA? Were there some challenges, or was it pretty easy?
No, I would say it's been very easy. You look at who is the right candidate. AAHOA elections are very serious. Glenn, you spent a lot of time around them.
Oh my goodness!
Jegrady ran a very contested election, and ultimately our membership decided that she was the right person to lead our association. And we have tremendous female directors who serve on our board who represent very well the industry. One of our 2 young professional directors is a female now. She likewise does a great job representing the industry, and everybody supports one another. Absolutely. AAHOA is a team. At the end of the day, it's a team made up of our board, our ambassadors, our past chairmen, our offices in Atlanta and D.C. And it takes that full team to make us function every day.
What do you worry about? What's the big thing that 6 months from now or a year from now that you're worried about, that you're really focused on?
There's a couple of things there. We want to be all things to all people.
Right.
I worry that that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. I don't just worry about it.
If you try to be everything to everyone, you wind up being nothing to everyone.
Absolutely.
Right?
We look at regulations. At the federal level, the state and local level, we know there are 3,000 counties in the U.S. There's 30,000 cities and towns. That's a lot of opportunity for bad laws.
Yeah.
So we look at how that really impacts hotel owners. Most elected officials have no idea what it takes to run a small business.
So what's the process? Bring me through the process of all that liability, all those policies, or how do you find where something is percolating? What's the process of that?
Well, the percolating side is really coming from our membership. Someone in a local area will reach out and say, word on the street is that there's a new occupancy tax, or I've just heard this, or sometimes it's after the fact. They have just passed this terrible law in the middle of the night. For us on the front end, it's about relationship building. It's making sure that we are equipping our hotel owner members with how to speak to their elected officials. Building those relationships before bad laws happens is literally the most important part of anybody's business plan, because if you build those relationships when you don't need anything, when something crosses their desk, they're like, I wonder how this impacts the hotel owners, and then they're going to proactively reach out. So that messaging of making sure if you don't have advocacy as part of your business plan as a hotel owner, you're missing maybe the most important aspect that you need to have every day.
2020 being a presidential election, do some of the nominees come after AAHOA for a,
blessing?
What's that?
A blessing?
A blessing?
Of course. At any point that you have an association that has
cool.
A large constituency, but ultimately AAHOA supports candidates that are pro-business. Regardless of which side of the aisle they may sit on, we want people who are familiar with what it takes to run a small business, what those issues are, and at the end of the day, support small business initiatives.
One of the things that I find frustrating still in general, and I think it's a little less on Capitol Hill, is there's still confusion out there amongst a lot of people. When they stay at XYZ branded hotel, they think that company owns all of those hotels, and they don't understand the concept of franchising. But franchises are absolutely everywhere, and I don't understand that disconnect with people not realizing that these are just small businesses partnering with large corporations in order to follow their particular dreams. And I'd love to see a little bit more clarity around that issue, because small and mid-sized businesses make up 99% of all the businesses in the country. But
I think that is the fantasy, right? Because you don't want to know that there's a small business behind that as a consumer. You want to know that that Mr. Hilton is sitting at the helm, or Mr. Mara sitting at the helm.
Right.
So I think that that's the kind of illusion that it's been based on. Now, through groups like AAHOA, I think that gets the word out, but I think that's kind of how, I think that's just how it's built.
I'm kind of the opposite. I really like supporting small businesses and knowing that.
I agree 100%.
I'm making direct help
100%.
on a family is so important.
But I think you're talking about two different things. So you're talking about the customer, the guests, which of course does not recognize that most of them are small business owners.
But it's really about Capitol Hill.
Yeah, even on Capitol Hill. The franchise model is absolutely what paves the way for the American dream. The opportunity for people to invest in small businesses, to run their own companies, is second to none. I mean, it's just, but you are right. There is just so much confusion about what that means, that we have so many people in office who've never signed the front of a paycheck, only the back of a paycheck. So not just from understanding small business, but really understanding that franchise model. I mean, I think, Glenn, you may have been on when we do a great back of the house tour where we take elected officials to a hotel. And they will spend the entire day there making a bed, ringing in guests, walking the maintenance walk.
Oh, that's fantastic.
To really understand, when you are a hotel owner, what are the challenges day in and day out. And through that process, we talk a lot about the franchise model and what it means for our membership, what it means for small business owners, and really what it means for the American dream.
That's interesting, because you would think in this country that most of our senators and congressmen are business people.
Right.
Most of them are lawyers.
Right.
Why is that?
I feel like you're looking at me since I am one. No, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think nowadays you have career politicians. It's a very different driven market. So I think once upon a time, your elected officials were made up of your local business folks. And then as they were elected, or as they served the local community, maybe city council, and then they look to be maybe at the state level and then maybe at the federal level. Now you're really almost breeding career politicians.
Yeah, so that's interesting. But do you have any sort of program in place when someone is newly elected to Congress in order to start to educate them on this process? Because in the last election cycle, there were a lot of people that came out of that grassroots efforts of the community that had never been politically involved before and were more of the typical citizen than in past elections. So how does that affect how you try to connect with those folks in order to educate them on the importance of small business in the hospitality industry?
Well, that's a huge part of what we do. We've got a full team in D.C. who leads those efforts, and that comes back to the relationship building. There were over 100 new folks elected last year, and you need to start day one with those meetings. So we schedule those meetings, we go in, we visit them. We're not just educating them about AAHOA, which is obviously very important to us, but we are educating them on the hotel industry as a whole, hotel ownership specifically, and then drilling down even more than that to AAHOA. But that starts day one.
Right, which makes sense, because you need to just to set the stage of understanding and then drill down. If you walked in and this is AAHOA, if they don't have that other basic understanding, then they're just not going to get what you guys are accomplishing either.
Well, it's the repeated contact, too, that I talked about. You can't just go in once and say, let me introduce you to the hotel industry. You're making those meetings all the time. You know, we do our fly-in. You were there in September for our Legislative Action Summit that we do with AAHOA. But we want to make sure that we have that repeated contact. And it's not just with the Friends of AAHOA, and we have many in Capitol Hill now, but it's making sure that all the new folks know as well.
Right. It's kind of the same thing, I think, any of us working the cocktail party circuit. It's not good enough just to say hello that one time. You've got to keep having meaningful bump-ins, so over time you can build that relationship. Nothing comes overnight. So it takes a while, I think, to get that mind share from that representative, because it's not just the hospitality industry that's going, it's everybody else, and they've got a whole lot of input. So to be there and out there and doing it over and over and over again is pretty amazing. You've got such a dedicated team.
Are there any members, AAHOA members, in Congress or Senate?
There are. We have a couple of AAHOA members that currently serve in Congress.
Dr. Ami Berra?
Yeah.
Yep. I've been trying to get an interview with him for a while. He's always very busy.
We might know people, but we might know some people. No, I was going to say, actually, one of the exciting things when you talk about the growth of AAHOA is several years ago when we went to Capitol Hill, we spent almost all of our time in the meetings talking about who we are as an association. Now we can skip over that part and we just start going right into the issues. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
So you have to start that process early so that when you are going in, you're not spending all of the time talking about AAHOA and you're really focused on what those major issues are.
It just occurred to me, Rachel, we talk an awful lot about local level and national level. We haven't talked about state level. Yeah. What's your approach with that?
It's very similar to the local level. That, again, is building relationships. You know, we've got the exceptional regional directors who serve across the country. There are state lobby days, just like we stormed Capitol Hill. We go to the state lobby days as well. We have tremendous partnerships with the state lodging associations. So we have feet on the ground there, making sure that we are involved and we are helping with messaging, helping with lobbying at the state level.
So like a little military operation, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you've got that whole side of the business and the event side of the business. You have over 200.
And then they got to deal with you.
Oh, God, that's a whole, they have a whole team dealing with that.
It's amazing. It really is. I didn't know. I mean, I knew AAHOA since I've been born into this industry, but like I didn't really realize how hard it is. The word I was probably looking for is like complicated or intense,
Right.
but like literally the word just hard. It's like it's hard. It's like I don't know how you do it every day. What's your biggest challenge? Like, what's like you coming in, being in the position for the first time? Like, what was your biggest challenge?
Keeping all the balls in the air for sure. I mean, we just do so much, and we want to make sure we're doing it at the absolute highest level. There are only so many hours in the day. Our team is only so big. We wish we had billions of volunteers,
Of
and our
course.
staff was 10 times the size.
How
of
big is
what
your
it
staff?
We have 40 employees between Atlanta and DC, but we have enough work for probably 140 at this point. So as far as the things that keep me up at night, it's absolutely manpower and continuing to serve our members at the highest level.
And emailing, because she emails very late.
I do.
Yeah, but you know what? For a person in her position, she always gets back to you.
Oh, always. Which
I'm
is
just going to sit here and let you guys compliment me for a few
you're just really awesome at what you've done, and to watch what you've accomplished since you first came in the front door of AAHOA has been really, really wonderful. I think you bring so much personality and fun, but a lot of business sense to the
Yeah,
to it.
what I like about you is you're fun and you're kind of easy to deal with, but you're no BS.
No. You're very, very.
Is that a compliment?
Yes.
I will tell you one of the things
So
that
what you're
Yes.
saying is I need a better filter,
Right.
maybe.
So I'm going to tell
No,
you.
not at all.
I'm going to tell you what people tell me all the time. You're so direct.
Yeah.
Is that it?
And
Is
I
that
don't
it?
know.
As a person that is no BS
Likewise.
myself,
Right.
like I relate to that. I look for those people.
Yeah, well, we got that Brooklyn Queens thing going on, but to see somebody from Atlanta have that New York directing is very,
I like it.
very impressive.
Well, she was a trial lawyer,
Right.
so I want to get back to that for a second. Tell me the first moment you won your first case that everybody thought was unwinnable.
Ooh, good question.
Oh, my goodness.
She looks around.
She's looking around for help.
Shut
Sorry,
that speaker off.
They all, everyone around here just flew away.
I'm going to say I had some tremendous opportunities during my trial lawyer career. So I've worked on some really exceptional cases. I will tell you that I spent the first 3 years of my career working for a boutique criminal defense practice, handling some really exceptional cases.
On
So-
the defense side?
On
or-
the defense side.
Right.
So we'll just leave it at that.
We'll leave it at
That was
that.
a super lawyerly answer. You've been
So that's so. This
There
is
are
easy
some
compared to
trials
that.
you may have heard of here and there. So
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Ooh.
This is. I hate not knowing now.
No, but the stress of that with
But-
people's lives in your hand, that's crazy.
it actually is a lot of pressure, especially as a young lawyer right out
Yeah.
of law school. It's a tremendous. I had great opportunity. I got in with an exceptional firm in Northern Virginia that was really at the elite level for that type of representation, and so I was able to learn. But you learn trial by fire, absolutely,
No doubt.
and the pressure is tremendous.
Yeah, well, you're a killer, so that they put you in a firm like that because you're really good. But like you said, there was tremendous opportunity. But the reason there was tremendous opportunity to be in a law firm like that is because you got amazing grades, you did really well, and you were exceptional. Because you don't go to exceptional law firms unless you're exceptional.
I will actually tell you an interesting learning thing.
Oh,
I
yeah?
was not an exceptional student. The partner who hired me at the firm in Northern Virginia was not driven by pedigree at all. He was looking for an it factor, which has always been a huge compliment to me.
Yeah, totally.
He said he was a very average law school student at an average law school, but he wanted somebody who he felt had what it was going to take for that role.
Wow.
So I don't. I tell my girls all the time I was not. I was a very exceptionally average student, and I have accomplished many exciting things. I will say that, except for the current job I have, that being a criminal defense lawyer was the greatest job I have ever had. I loved it a tremendous amount.
It
And
must feel so incredible to put all of that hard work in and then get the result that you were hoping for at the end of a trial.
yeah, I mean, we were talking about the American dream a few minutes ago from the business sense, but innocent until proven guilty
Right.
is probably one of our most fundamental rights, if not the most fundamental. And when you think about the criminal justice system, there's certainly a lot of challenges with it in the United States. I would argue that it's the best anywhere in the world, even with its challenges. But there's a lot of education and learning opportunity there. People think where there's smoke, there's fire. If you are charged with something, you are inherently guilty.
Right.
And you're overcoming that from the get-go. As opposed to innocent until proven guilty, our
Right.
system really works in other ways.
So it's really been ingrained to you to listen and to figure out facts, and that probably is really helpful being in the position you're in now. But as a parent, right, Are your children innocent to proven guilty?
I have raised 2 angels, so I am yet to be challenged by them. No, I mean, I think that it is, parenting is a completely different beast, as you know, and I will say that I take tremendous pride in this day and age to raise 2 strong, independent girls. With so many outside influences, the world is completely different than it was. I grew up in rural New Hampshire and metropolitan Atlanta with 3,000 TV channels and social media and everything else is just a completely different animal than I grew up with.
Yeah.
And so...
totally. As a parent, I sometimes feel adrift because the world is so different now than it was when we were running around. Just simple things like... I'd go out and my parents wouldn't care where I was as long as I came home before dinner or dark, right? Yeah. Now it's like, don't even want your kids to walk to school.
Now I have Live 360 on my phone.
Yeah. Well, now you have a cell phone. We didn't have that either, of course.
You want to know my children? I can tell you right now.
Yeah. I like to give my girls a hard time when I'm trying to date myself. I absolutely remember my first computer. I absolutely remember my first bag phone of my cell phone and all of these other things. The world is completely different from every aspect.
Just look at the hotel business. All right, so going back in 1990, I'd say I became a general manager or a supervisor, where I had some authority, maybe in 92, 93, and I remember the conversation. No one is going to give you their credit card online to book a reservation. You're crazy. My friend David Malilli, who started a company called Open Hospitality, came to me and said, I'm opening up a company that helps people build websites for their hotel. And I was like, I'm good. I got a GM job. I'm making money. God bless you. And he ate peanut butter and jelly for a long time. And then he hit it and he made, did really well. But I remember having conversations with him that people would not it's like, I can't give you my credit card to go online. It's like, no, that's the future. Right. Remember that?
My roommate, my sophomore year in college, booked her flight from California back to Connecticut on Prodigy. And
my gosh.
My mother was a travel agent at the time, and I said, no one will ever book travel on this computer thing, ever. I thought it was the craziest notion that someone would type where they wanted to go, and the computer would answer you.
And, even to a bigger step than that, I never thought women would buy shoes online. I thought that was the craziest thing.
I don't know how they do that now. So,
but like Zappos, to me, was like the craziest thing in the world. Like, why would you ever... And Amazon now, I don't go to retail stores anymore. I'm sorry, but I don't. And it's just amazing what's happening. Right. And we're not talking 100 years.
No, absolutely.
We're talking like yesterday.
But that correlates to the hospitality industry, too, because it moves so quickly. That's what we were talking about. When you think about the internet, when you think about cell phones, technology, social media, every single one of those has impacted our industry, not just our personal lives. Not just how we book our own personal travel, but on the hospitality industry side as well.
It's transformed the industry completely. But just let all of you young professionals that might be listening to this show know Prodigy was kind of like AOL. It started out as something It started out as something called CompuServe, turned to Prodigy, and was offered through Sears.
Yes,
I didn't know that. Yeah. You know everything.
Yeah, and it was. I think it was back in the days of 2400 baud dial-up modems. And if your friend, your roommate, was booking that flight, and God forbid somebody called in the middle of it, you would have to start all over.
Yeah, that is true.
Remember when AOL was so big it bought Time Warner?
Yes.
The biggest catastrophe in the world?
Yeah, I know a lot of people that got really hurt in that. That's why I've always been happy and broke. I don't have to worry about the pressure of the stock market out there. Rachel, I'm feeling like this conversation is starting to come to an end. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we ask you one big question?
There absolutely is, Glenn. I told you that you will always have our breaking news first. And so as of about 30 minutes ago, AAHOA has launched registration for our 2020 Convention and Trade Show in Orlando, April 13th to 16th. We're expecting 8,000 of our closest friends again to join us as we celebrate. Absolutely. As we celebrate the industry and AAHOA. So everyone now, AAHOA.com/convention, and you can register now.
All right, that's AAHOA.com/convention. Register now. I can't wait to be there.
I think we should go. I'm sure you're going.
Be there.
Am I getting an invitation?
You're going to have to talk to...
Am I getting an invitation?
Go to AAHOA.com/convention.
That's your invitation, man, right
well,
there.
Well, listen, we do podcasting. Actually, I'm actually going to be in the Bahamas with my daughter who's going on a senior trip. And what's amazing about that...
That's got its own set of challenges.
It's so funny. One of my daughters last year said, a couple of years ago when she was a senior, said, Dad, I'm going to the Bahamas on my senior trip. I said, I'm coming with you. There's no way you're going to Bahamas by yourself. So she didn't go. My other daughter said the same thing. I said, all right, as long as I go with you. You know what she did? She called my bluff. She goes, okay, book your room. So now I'm going to be at one hotel across the street, and she's going to be at the other hotel. I'm going to be sitting in my hotel room for a week on a vacation I don't want to take. With a vacation I don't want to take.
That's hysterical.
Nice.
All right, so I'm curious, before I ask you our final question, what's your best travel tip for people? You're running all over the country all the time. How do you handle the in and outs of the airport, city to city, and all of the time zone shifts and all that stuff?
I have no idea. I don't consider myself a consumer. I'm not picky for hotels. Hotels to me are all about location and price, especially when I'm traveling for business. We're a nonprofit association. From a traveling tip standpoint, I am a worker at all times while I'm traveling. So to me, hotel Wi-Fi, airplane Wi-Fi, making sure that I have the ability to stay connected is probably the most important. I don't know that I have a tip standpoint. I will... tell you that I try never to check a bag. I have the worst luck with checked luggage. So if it can't fit overhead, it's not coming with me, and it doesn't matter how long I'm going away for. So
really, I'm the opposite.
Yeah, me too. I always check a bag.
Yeah.
When I travel for the show, I'm there 4 days, and you're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you, but I take 2 suitcases, and they're both about 65 pounds each.
Would it hurt your feelings if I said that doesn't surprise me?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, first you don't invite me to AAHOA, and second you insult me.
She's what are you talking about? AAHOA.com/convention. That invite was pretty clear. All right, so Rich, we like to end all of our checking in with Anthony and Glenn shows with one question. Tell us something about you that we don't know.
Oh my gosh, I'm an open book. What about me that you don't know?
What sport you do in college or high school?
I was a downhill ski racer and a field hockey player in high school, and in college I played college field hockey.
Wow,
it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Did you ever see field hockey, bro? That's like rugby.
Yeah,
that's a tough sport.
It's not delicate.
Wow. So tell me about downhill ski racing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I grew up in New Hampshire at the bottom of a ski mountain. I spent every minute that I wasn't in school skiing. I loved it so much.
You still ski?
I do over Christmas break. My husband and I take our girls every year to a different ski area around the country. We go over New Year's. I don't know. I'm getting texts every day from the girls and my husband. You need to sign off on this, and I haven't had a chance to do it yet. But we've had a great opportunity. I'm on a mission to hit all 50 states, and so we have used that opportunity to go to to go to Montana, to go to Wyoming, to go to Colorado, to Idaho, to some of the greatest ski areas. So I'm generally motivated in that way. North Dakota, in case you were wondering, is the only state I have left. They are not big skiers, so we will not be headed there, but it's a nice opportunity for us to get out as a family.
Cool. So tell us something we don't know about you, Anthony.
I love skiing. As you probably guess by my personality, I love downhill skiing really, really fast. This whole in and out thing, I don't understand. I just understand tuck and go.
Best burgers. What are you talking about?
You don't snowboard, do you?
No.
Yeah, we're too old for that.
Yeah, I'm not only too old. I don't have patience for all that work. Yeah. I just put the skis on, tuck, and go. And I'm so the first time I learned how to ski, my brother brought me to the Pines with the Knights of Columbus, went up there and brought me to, I'd say, a blue square mountain, and said, okay, this is how you stop. Literally threw me down. So I was like, oh my God, this is great. Right. I went all the way down. I didn't fall. I stopped at the end. I went up the second time, and from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill was just one big snowball. And how I didn't kill myself. Right now, if I felt like that, I would break every bone in my body.
I agree.
Right.
Remember when you used to fall when you were a kid? You bounce up like nothing happened. You fall now and it's like, oh.
And sometimes I just find it's a good chance to just sit for a while and relax and just take a nap.
So, Glenn, tell us something we don't know.
It's going to become as a shock to you, but I'm
don't ski.
I am not known for my athleticism. No, I have skied. And
wait, as he's saying this, like he looks up at the table,
Yep.
he squares up, he pushes his hips closer.
I
I have skied. Like he's so proud.
for 2 or 3 seconds at a time before crashing down, and I was never able to even stand up from when I fell. I would always have to take off one ski and stand up
It's
and
too
then
much
put it
work.
back on. The whole thing is too much. I'm much better suited for sitting at
The
the
lodge.
Hot chocolate. Hot chocolate.
Yeah. So no sports for me.
And that would hurt your feelings if we both say that doesn't surprise us.
No, it does not. I was not born into an athletic family or an athletic body.
So, Glenn, where can we find you? Oh, actually,
Where can we find
sir.
her?
where can we find you? On the internet. Where can we find AAHOA?
AAHOA.com.
/convention.
Right.
No, yeah, of course. AAHOA.com. You'll see everything you need to know about what we have going on at AAHOA. And I just want to take a minute to thank both of you. You've always both been tremendous supporters of the association, our membership. We're incredibly grateful. It is a relationship industry. It's a relationship association, and you both have been great partners to us. So thank you for all of that.
Well, thank you. And like I said last night at the reception, I thanked everybody in the room. It's like if they didn't watch television and watch Hotel Impossible, I wouldn't have a career. They've been my biggest supporters. I walk through an airport,
Right.
and there's a AAHOA member, they literally tackle me. They're like so excited, and it's just because they appreciate that I appreciate them, and it's so it's reciprocal.
Usually when I see AAHOA members in the airport, they run the opposite direction. not as warm. But thank you for everything too, Rachel, because I find working with yourself and the entire team over at AAHOA to be exceptionally easy. You're also
Competent.
You're also friendly. You get stuff done. And you are serious, but don't take things too seriously, which I absolutely love.
But competency is a lost art. Like everybody I deal with at AAHOA is just they're competent. Like, there's no other word.
Right.
And competent entails everything you just said.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much. We appreciate
So, Anthony, how can we find you, my friend?
Anywhere you want to be on the internet at Anthony Hotels. How about you, my brother?
And I, of course, am at Traveling Glenn. But more importantly than that, like our Facebook page at Checking In at No Vacancy. Follow us on LinkedIn. If you want to subscribe to our newsletter, text the word hotel to 66866 and download all of our shows on Checking In, No Vacancy, Hotel Design Podcast, Business Hotels Podcast, and the Hotel Tech Podcast, wherever you like to download your shows. So for Rachel, Anthony, and myself, thanks for checking in.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.